Hey everyone, we have some exciting news for you this morning if the Wall Street Journal is to be believed. So, their Japanese reporting team is coming out and saying that Nintendo not only has a revision coming this year, which falls in line with reports they did late last year, they're saying there are 2 revisions, and we have some additional details on the target audience and the desire and possibly the power of these revisions. So, what are we talking about here? Well, they're reporting that as soon as this summer, although don't be surprised if it's later this year, maybe even holidays, Nintendo is launching 2 new versions of the Nintendo Switch. So in addition to the base model as is, there will be a Pro version. Now, we've talked about the Pro version in the past, but they say according to developers who are currently hands-on with the platform, working on their games to make it work for it, it will not be as powerful as, say, an Xbox One X or a PlayStation 4 Pro. However, that's the comparison being drawn by the developers. What that does mean is it might be as powerful, if not more powerful, than a base PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. Again, that's speculation, but while it won't be at Pro and X levels, it might be a significant leap forward from where it is currently. Now, the target audience for this is obviously for avid and pro gamers, according to the developers who are hands-on with it right now. And the idea is it is supposed to be the system to help tide a momentum swing that could be coming in the future and help maintain Switch's prominence in the marketplace. Now, we'll get into why they might be doing this in a moment. The second system is actually the, supposed Switch Mini. It is essentially a smaller version of the Nintendo Switch that intended purpose is to basically target the 3DS audience. They're trying to make a cheaper version, and they do note that the designs of both these systems are drastically different from the original Nintendo Switch. Now, I don't know if that means something like the Mini doesn't have detachable Joy-Cons. That would be a drastic change. And the Pro, maybe there's no bezels, or who knows? Maybe the Joy-Cons for it are redesigned and there's a D-pad. Who knows? But there's going to be some drastic differences from the way Switch is currently. But it is still going to be referred to as a Switch, and it's still going to be a family of Switch systems. So this is very interesting news. Obviously, no price points are discussed because they're getting this information from developers who have the dev kits for this stuff, and obviously they don't even know what it's going to cost necessarily. So obviously this would be something Nintendo would be announcing at some point moving forward. You would assume this summer. I mean, part of me wants to say it's safe to assume E3, but Nintendo hasn't actually had hardware announcements at E3 for a little while, so I don't know that they're going to do that. Then again, Sony's not at E3, so maybe they see this as an opportunity. Obviously, Microsoft's doing their thing, and I'm sure with how buddy-buddy Nintendo and Microsoft have been, Nintendo's well aware of what Microsoft is probably working on and doing, and they might want to announce these new platforms in tandem with whatever Microsoft has going on. Who knows? But it sounds like, anyways, at least according to the Wall Street Journal, who now is claiming they have multiple sources on this. This isn't just like manufacturers, which they have sources with, and they have gotten some of this information from, and it's not just game developers. It's both. So they are hearing from both sides of the fence that these 2 platforms exist and are arriving this year. At least that is what Nintendo has told the manufacturing companies and has told the developers who currently have kits to make their games work on these platforms. Now, why is Nintendo doing this? Well, there's a few reasons. One, 3DS momentum is obviously done, and it's ready for a successor. And for the successor to be a Switch Mini makes a lot more sense to me. To me, that means they're trying to make a platform that targets that $200 price range. Probably it doesn't come with a dock. Might not even be dockable, because the idea is it's a Switch for kids. And kids usually don't care about playing on their TV. So I think that is what they are trying to target with that. So it's basically, look, I know it feels weird to call it a Switch, but they're still calling it that because it plays the same games. Now, it still might be even the same base system and base processor. It could be the same base everything, just in a smaller package. So we'll have to wait and see how that works out, especially since it might not have to worry about an increased power delivery, because it might not be able to run the games like it can in docked mode on the normal Switch, so they can go with a lesser cooling situation and stuff like that. No moving fan, which would be beneficial for children. Now, when it comes to the Pro version, why would they be announcing that now? Switch is going to win the NPD every single month this year, right? Probably. Switch has a lot of momentum coming off Smash Bros, right? Yup. Switch has a lot of games coming out, right? Of course it does. Well, wait a second. What is the Switch lacking in sometimes? Well, performance, of course. We've seen with Daemon X Machina's demo that it doesn't necessarily run the greatest on a base Nintendo Switch. It does run, it is playable, and I had a lot of fun with that demo, but there's a lot of people that complain that it doesn't run well. Is it possible that Daemon X Machina has actually been targeted for the new Pro system, and it's just kind of downported to the rest, and it's functional and playable and fine, but it's really meant for the Pro or whatever they end up calling this new version of the Nintendo Switch. And why would they be doing it? Well, Google Stadia is around the corner, Project xCloud, the next Xbox, PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, like there's this new buzz happening, and Nintendo, I think, is trying to be more market aware of what's occurring, so they don't have a Wii U situation where the Wii U gets kind of left in the dust. They're like, look, we're not going to be as powerful as those given platforms because we're portable, but we can offer comparable power for companies to consider downporting games to the platform. I think that's the goal here. And with the target being avid and pro gamers, the idea would be then, look, we're not going to be able to give you Xbox 2 and PlayStation 5 power in a box. Heck, we can't give you X and Pro power. The technology isn't there. But what we can do is give you something that's a significant leap that gets us to base PlayStation 4 type of performance that is going to enable companies to want to downport their games to Switch. So I think this is a very interesting concept. This obviously is going to go really well for the next couple of years, where games are being made still for PlayStation 4 anyways, the base unit included. So I think this is actually a very smart move by Nintendo, and it's preemptive because the momentum for Switch hasn't really slowed down, but it also hasn't seen the rapid growth they wanted to see, right? Like, its growth year over year, it's there, but it's minimal. And I don't think they want it to be minimal. So I think they feel like they have a three-pronged approach here, right? They have the original Switch, which is just going to be its thing, and it's going to be at its price range, maybe even a price cut to $250. I don't know, but that's going to be a thing that still exists. It might eventually get phased out for the Mini and the Pro, but that's something that won't happen this year anyways. That's more consideration for next year, depending on how sales go. So they will have the mini version, which is basically the budget Switch for kids. And then they're going to have this Pro version, which will probably be $300, $400. And it's going to be a system targeted for an audience that's looking for a more hardcore experience with their video games on the go and at home. So I honestly think that this is a brilliant move by Nintendo. And while it might not stem everything, right? It's not a streaming service. So like, how's Google Stadia going to affect it? Probably the same way it would affect a normal Switch. But I do think that this does build more momentum for Nintendo and does keep the Switch relevant for an extra few years here while these other new platforms are hitting the market. So I think this is just a planned response from Nintendo, since they knew they were releasing Switch mid-generation, that they needed to have something in the works to maintain Switch for many, many years. Now, if you remember, the original partnership between NVIDIA and Nintendo, NVIDIA is the one that is basically making the Switches for Nintendo, but at least the base technology for it. That partnership originally was a decade long, which tells you that Switch's lifespan was probably intended to be about a decade. So this is how you maintain that. Now, when might we see a new generation Switch? Obviously, that's not something I think we're going to see till 2022, 2023. But a Pro model could definitely carry us until that point. So I think this is really interesting. I think it's really cool. You guys let me know what you think down in the comments below. I know I'm kind of happy. I almost bought a second Switch recently because I'm having some issues with mine, and I was going to fix mine up and give it to my son and get myself a new one. Well, I guess I'll just wait for the Pro and the Mini, right? Because maybe I'll get my one son the Minis just so I can check out the Mini, and then get myself the Pro, and then give my other son the normal Switch, because he's not going to care. So, yeah, this is kind of cool. They're probably all going to play the exact same games, obviously different performance levels. We saw this with the 3DS XL and the new Nintendo 3DS in particular. We saw this with the DSi as well compared to the DS. So this isn't even unheard of for Nintendo to have multiple platforms play the same games with different performances. Will there be exclusive games for the Pro version? Well, there were exclusive games for the new Nintendo 3DS. So probably most of those exclusives were from third parties. They need a way to denote on the box, but whatever. I'm pretty happy that this is even a thing that Nintendo's considering, even though they could just ride the wave of the current Switch for another year or two. I think Nintendo, for once, is being really proactive here and trying to act before things take a downturn. Anyways, I am Nathaniel Jazz from Nintendo Prime. Let me know what you think about this rumor down in the comments below. I'll put a link to the Wall Street Journal article, as well as a link to Reset Era, which has some quotes from the article that basically say everything I just told you. But it's good to have both, since the Wall Street Journal article you have to pay to read, and there's select quotes to back up what I'm saying from that article at Reset Era. Anyways, be sure to enter our Nintendo Switch Super Smash Bros. Ultimate giveaway through the Gleam.io link down in the description. I want to thank you all for tuning in. Be sure to subscribe, like this video, and I'll catch all of you guys in the next video.